All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, ideally, Alan Baines, he's one of our elders. He's our regular teacher here. They're out of town for a couple of weeks. So I'm filling in this week, and Jacob is going to fill in next week. All right. We're going to be out of town next week. Anyways, but we're kind of in the middle of a study on the book of Joshua here. And what Alan does basically, he's asked us, to basically read most of the book. If you have time, you should take a little time to read those passages. And then and he goes through each chapter a little bit, hits the high points of it, tells us what's in the chapter, and then he picks out a few questions, that bring out the most important lessons in the chapter. So that's where these questions kind of come in as we go along. It's kind of an outline in a way. But we had gotten up to the 5th chapter. We'd finished the 5th chapter, okay, which is all about Israel's preparation for their possession of Canaan, the promised land. I think we all know that, right? All right. So this is a preparation going on. And if you have a Bible, you want to turn to chapter 6. This is going to describe the first of many conquests by Israel in the promised land. God told them he's going to give them this land, right? Back in Genesis 35, I think, or 32. It's right at the end of Genesis. He gave Abraham the promise, and he gave the Israelites the promise of the land. But there was a catch to it, right? What was the catch, Michael? They had to fight for it, right?
They had to fight.
He wasn't just going to, hey, here's the deed, I'm just going to give you this property, and you can just have fun with it. No, he said, I'm going to be with you, but you're going to have to fight for every section of this land. And if you look at a couple chapters ahead, 31 areas and 31 kings with armies had to be defeated before they could move in, So there's going to be a lot of warring going on, all right? This is the first of, like you might say, about 31 conquests they're going to have to make in this land that we're going to talk about here in a minute. So if you want to turn to chapter 6, it's going to describe the first conquest. It's probably the best well-known of all the conquests because we teach it in Bible school a lot. So we just started looking at this last time. Before we delve into chapter 6, though, I want to share a couple important little background pieces of information with you so we can get the big picture of this book. It is an important book. It is a book of history, okay, of Israel's history. They've come together as a country, right, under Moses, right? He brought them together, right? And then he led them out in the desert for 40 years, And so they're forming, their nation, out there. But this is going to really galvanize them. This is going to pull them all together and make them unified in a lot of ways and strengthen them. Much like the Civil War in our country kind of helped our country grow up. We didn't want to go through the Civil War. It's a terrible war. But it changed our country in a lot of ways. It made us a lot of who we are today because of that war. War has a way of doing this. It challenges us in every way, and people have to come together to win the war. And so it has a unifying effect in a lot of ways. But anyway, that's kind of what's going on here. They're going to be fighting all these battles, and they're going to be getting stronger as they're winning, and they're winning it, and they're really appreciate the land once they get it. You would too if you had to fight for something, right? You appreciate what you get. If somebody just didn't hand it to you, it's a little different that way. But anyways, that's what's going to be going on here pretty soon. So some of the just a couple of bits of information I wanted to mention. So we get the big picture. First, the book has two main sections to it. Conquering the enemy is the beginning section. All right, for about the first 9-10 chapters, they're going to be warring and conquering all these enemies. And then after that, there's about 20 chapters of dividing the spoils, you might say, right? Once they conquer all this land, there's a lot of spoils, there's a lot of land, and God gives them directions as to how to divide it up. This tribe's going to get this piece of property, this tribe going to get that piece of property. And that takes up a large part of the book, which we're not going to dwell on that. I don't think Alan's going to dwell on it or anybody else. It's kind of boring. It's not real significant. The significant part of the book is what we're reading about here, how they're coming together and they're forming as a nation and they're doing God's will and they're being successful. You know, it's one of the brighter parts of their history, you know, because as I think, you know, later on, when they get into Judges, they fall apart, you know. That's the next study as they go into Judges, which we won't get into that right now. But they don't follow God as they're supposed to in Judges. But here, they have good leadership under Joshua. He is an outstanding leader, one of the best leaders that we read about in the whole Bible is Joshua. But the people are always victorious under Joshua. And that's quite a record, isn't it? Moses, he's thought of as a great leader, right? He's the great lawgiver. He accomplished great things. But he made some bad mistakes along the way, and the people didn't always follow him like they should have. And so he got punished. That's why he wasn't allowed into the promised land. See? God didn't allow him to come. He let Joshua take over and take the people into the promised land because of a sin that Moses committed. And he's known for several sins, but he's still a great leader. But Joshua, interesting thing about him, the Bible never says anything negative about Joshua. Now, that's a pretty incredible record, right? Not that he's Jesus. He's not going to say he's Jesus. But, you know, his name transliterated into Greek is Jesus. Joshua is in the Hebrew. That's Jesus. So he's got a connection there just through his name. He saves his people, you know, and that's what Joshua is doing. He's saving his people as they're going through all these fights and they're victorious, okay? He's saving them for this new country that they're going to live in. So he's an outstanding leader. And we can make a whole study just about his leadership style, but we're not going to do that. All right, now. But anyways, they have great leadership. They're being victorious, okay? Now, but that's what the first part of the book is about. That's what we're studying right now, how Joshua is leading them victoriously through these early years of going into Canaan. All right, so I want to just mention all the events in this book span about 25 years. Okay, all this conquering and dividing of the spoils. We're talking about a 25-year period of time. Okay, not a lot in the overall scheme of things, but it's a significant period of their history. And the actual conquest of Canaan only took 7 years. So that's what we're going to start reading about now. 7 years, they took 31 kings down. 31 kings, think of that. That's a lot of kingdoms. That's a lot of fortified cities. You know, these were tough people. These were not pushovers. These were trained soldiers. These are tough people. And so that's 7 years that we're reading about of the actual fighting. And after recording numerous military campaigns that defeated the Canaanites, it ends with Joshua's regathering the nation for his final exhortation. So that'll come up later at the end of the book. So after they conquer everything, they divide up everything, he'll pull them all together for a big meeting. And he's going to challenge them to be faithful to God before he dies. He died about 110 years old. Anyways, but we'll get to that later. But that's coming up. So that shows more of what a great leader he was. Okay, so he helps them be victorious. He sets a good example. He keeps them on God's side of things. Even though they weren't perfect, they made a few mistakes. We'll see some of that. But overall, they had a very good record. Now, why is Joshua so important? We see God's fulfill his promise. I mentioned in Genesis 35, he told them, I'm going to give you this land. I don't know if he told me to have to fight for it at that time, but he's going to give it to him anyways. But he promised that years ahead of time. So he's got to fulfill his promise in this book. That's important. But we have to see God as a promise giver, or a promise keeper, right? Shouldn't we see God as a promise keeper? I mean, if we don't, we're not going to have much to believe in. If he doesn't keep his promises, we can't trust him. Just like a friend or your parents or somebody. You got to be able to trust people. When they say they're going to do something, they got to have the character to see it through and do it. Well, God is that way. When he says he's going to do something, he has to do it. He has to see it through. That's a sign of his perfect character. See? So we're going to see Joshua is going to portray God as a promise keeper, and that's what one of the important lessons of this book. it will portray God as a promise keeper, because they're going to be victorious in battle. But they had to trust God and obey Him. That was the catch. Just like we do. You've heard that song, Trust and Obey, right? We sing it. We're supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to be trusting God all along through life and obeying Him as we learn what He wants us to do. All right, so that same thing, that same principle applied to them back then. They had to trust and obey Him, and then they were successful. And we will see a little later, when they didn't trust and obey Him, then they started losing real bad. They started falling down. But they always came back under Joshua. See, they make a mistake, but Joshua would pray and turn them around and get them back on the right track. That's a sign of a good leader, see. So in this book, we'll also find accounts of faithfulness, like in the Battle of Jericho. That's coming up. And the story of Caleb, the warrior. That's coming up after that. We also witness disobedience and its consequences. All important lessons for us today as we strive to live godly lives for Jesus, right? I think we all been around long enough to know there are consequences when we get on the wrong path, right? We make the wrong turn. We see it as a country, we can see it as individuals, even as the church. Church can make a wrong turn, make a bad mistake, and there are consequences. So that's a lesson that's very clear in this book, because these people are going to be blessed, and then they're going to suffer consequences when they don't follow God. They're going to waver sometimes. Other times they're going to stay on track. Most of the time they'll be on track with Joshua. So in conclusion, this book of history, as I said, was written not only to the victorious Israelites who had settled the land. It took them 7 years and then another bunch of years to divide it up. But they had to settle the land, but was also written for the descendants of those who conquered the land as a historical account of how their people had come to settle there. Isn't it important to know where we came from? How we got here? It's important, right? It's important you know where you were born, where your family was from, where you came up. It's important that we know how our country started, and how it's developed over the years. It strengthens us. And you're kind of lost if you don't know basics about where you came from. So this book was written to give all these tribes, you got all these different groups. It's kind of a confederation of tribes. Kind of like we were the colonies, and when our country started, we had 13 colonies, right? We weren't really a country. We were a federation of colonies that became a country later on. But this is kind of how they were. They were like colonies. And they had to come together, though. And let's see. They needed to know where they came from. So that's my point. That's part of the significance of this book. And it also celebrates God as a general. Now, we don't normally think of God as a general, but Joshua, who wrote most of this book, is going to picture God as a general, kind of a commanding general, kind of like Eisenhower over the troops in World War II. He's going to picture God as a defender of the people. That's what a general does. He defends the people by making good plans. He's a defender of the people. He's also pictured as a king. We need to see God as a king. Still today, we still can see God as a king, a spiritual king. And also, he's going to picture him, as I mentioned, as a promise keeper. Very important that we see that God keeps his promises. All right. So those are some of the things that we're going to see as we continue our study through here. So these are some of the big ideas I would say are found in this book. Every book of the Bible has some significant ideas in it that bring us closer to God and to Jesus. And that's some of the things that this book will do for us. And we're going to see there are many lessons to be learned as we go through it and study this early history of Israel. We're going to see there are many, many lessons that are very significant for us. Now, I mentioned the first conquest is one that had to do with the story of Jericho. Do we have anybody who would like to tell the story? It takes a little too long to read it. There's a lot of details in there that we don't really have to know. If you haven't read it, go back and read it on your own time. But does anybody want to volunteer? Otherwise, Diana will, I talked to her, maybe telling the story of Jericho. She's taught it in Bible class, so she knows it very well. Anybody want to volunteer? You want to hear Diana? All right, Diana. This is your big moment.
He set this up in advance.
Yeah, I told her I might call on her.
Well, they cross the Jordan near Jericho and set up their camp. And a man appeared to Joshua and turned out he was the angel of the Lord, or actually it just refers to him as the Lord.
Might have been Jesus. Might have been Jesus himself, I think.
Oh, well, that never comes out.
No, it doesn't say that.
So anyway, he gave Joshua very detailed instructions about how they were supposed to take Jericho. He said, Jericho is yours. You just have to follow my directions. So he said, have the people take the ark, have the priests in front with their trumpets, and walk around the city of Jericho one time each day for 6 days. Don't make any sound, just march. The priests are blowing the trumpets, but they don't make any sound. So they did exactly that. They walked around the city once every day for 6 days. And then he said on the 7th day, you're going to walk around the city 6 or 7 times. I think, yeah, 7 times with, again, the priests blowing the trumpets, not saying anything. But then at some point, the priests are going to blow a long, steady sound. And at that point, everybody is going to shout, make a loud noise, and the walls will fall down.
What happened? They fell down.
Well, yeah.
That's what the kids will remember out of Bible school, because they have some kind of a diorama or something, and the walls come falling down. I remember things like that from Bible school. All right, so the walls come tumbling down, and then they rush in, of course, and they take the city and they destroy everything. That was God's command. They're to destroy all the people. That sounds harsh. But these, you got to remember, these were very ungodly people. They were not people that were going to change to following God. It's like their hearts were totally callous, and they had to be destroyed in order for Israel to move in and start a new nation and be holy people. You know, they're supposed to be God's model, right? But they can't be a model nation under God with all these corrupt, ungodly people inhabiting the land. So that's why everywhere they go, they kill all the people. And they burn the city, they just trash it. Now today there are ruins over there. If you go over in Israel today, you can go there and visit Jericho. They've rebuilt parts of it, I'm sure. And there's pictures of it in the Bible and stuff, but I have a picture if you want to see it. But so it was a very heavily fortified city. The gates were tight, and to look at it militarily was impossible to take it. It was just like the greatest fort that's ever been built. And so it's a very impossible situation militarily to take it. So this is their first conquest, okay? I love this story because God's strategy for conquering Jericho is an anti-military strategy, right? He doesn't tell them to line up your troops and go at them in waves or anything, but it works like a charm because Joshua does exactly what God says to do. That's the lesson for us there. When God tells you to do something and you know it's specific, you know, it's right in line with his will and his word, you know, do it. Don't try to change it around or something like that. Do you think that took a lot of patience for all the fighting men to stick with God's strategy? Can you imagine if you were a fighting man, a Marine, and you're told to just walk around the fort, just blow your horn, you know, shout, and you're just going to be victors? You think you would go along with that? Michael, you think you would?
Well, I mean, we would have to go through it with, the things that they saw. I mean, based upon the things that that they saw, and
But you think it would take a lot of patience, so to do it? I think it would.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you're a military person, you know. and you're used to doing things in a military way. You know, the military has very strict ways of doing things. And so this is something that would have taken a lot of patience, I think, maybe even on Joshua's part, but it must have seemed like ridiculous for the Israelites to silently march around the city for 7 days, basically carrying on the ark and blowing their horns. But the moment of truth comes when they shout, and God shows up just like he promised, and those walls come tumbling down. All because they have patiently believed and obeyed. So the lesson there is for us, sometimes we got to have a lot of patience in dealing with God, and sometimes it takes a long time for his will maybe to get accomplished in our life. He's going to, in this situation, it just tells us we got to have a lot of patience, really. You got to be patient to be a loving person, right? Love is patient. Kind is part of love, right? Well, patience is also a part of being faithful, a big part of it. And we see that here and Joshua is patient. You got to give him credit for that. And all his soldiers under him, they're listening to what he's telling them and what God told Joshua. So that's a lesson for us right there. What an account of faithfulness. I think we can all learn some valuable lessons from this true story as we all face from time to time our own challenging Jericho types of situations in our own lives. Don't you think we all face some kind of Jericho situations? Situations that seem impossible, but yet God's got a plan, you know? And it's going to take patience to get through it and faithfulness. But I think we all do face some of those in our lifetime anyways. So answering question 5 on our sheet here, Alan asked, what caused the walls of Jericho to fall down? Now we said God was a part of it last week.
Let's put some questions around all that we are, learning about Joshua's movement. Why am I saying this? These are stories that we heard several times, but it seems we have to be putting questions and asking questions ourselves. Like you just said,
we're going to question things. Yeah.
Is it possible today, if it will appear that somebody tells you, God said we should go around this church building 7 times and blow trumpet, the building will come down. Will you believe it?
If I was right there seeing it, I would believe it. Seeing is believing, but otherwise it'd be hard to believe.
Well, if you are right where? If you are right where?
Yeah.
Say if you are right there, where?
Yeah.
You are right here. We are in the house of God, right?
Right.
Good.
So we believe it. I think all of us here believe it. We didn't even have to be there to believe it. Right? So we believe this is a true story because it's in God's word.
That is true story.
Yeah.
You see, sometimes because when you are studying the Bible and then normally we do see the other side, like they are not ready to change to come to God's side. But we know very well that human beings don't change just like that, but they change because God wants them to change. Even when Israel, that God was performing so miracle before them, sometimes they change from the good side to what? Bad. And God will find a way to bring them back.
Yeah. Right.
God will find a way to bring them back. Otherwise, they will go astray. He will find a difficult way to bring them back.
Right.
The question is,
right.
People like those who are living in Jericho then, if God said, I want to bring these people to my side, He's God of hope, He will do it.
Yeah.
He will do it.
All right.
But God used to choose Israelites. That I promise your, grandfathers that land. So I will give the land to you. But you have to go for it yourself. You have to fight for it.
That's right. Okay.
Somebody will.
Let's go back to our question. What caused the walls of Jericho to fall down?
Good.
God, right?
God.
We said God, yes. He definitely had a big part in it. But more specifically, because people understood God's plan first. They had to understand the plan, came through Joshua, and they obeyed it in faith. If they had not understood it or obeyed it in faith, the walls wouldn't have come tumbling down. They would have just been walking around for nothing. See? But they did have faith. So there's a lesson for us. We need to understand God's will. That's why we come to Bible class, to better understand it, right? And then the harder part is obeying it all the time in faith. But that's the challenge for us always, to go through life trying to obey what we learn from God's will. But they did it here, and that's why the walls fell down. That's all I'm saying. So I just want to add that.
Do you actually think that the people, you said they understood, do you think they understood?
Well, the soldiers did. I don't know about the rank and file people, but
even
Joshua gave the orders
No,
to them.
but
They
you
understood.
said they understood it. I wonder,
Well,
they
I'm sure they
understood.
questioned it. Like I said.
because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the point I'm trying to raise.
Yeah,
I'm sure they questioned it, no doubt. But the main point is they followed through. They did what God told Joshua. He passed it on to the people, and they did it. Period. And the walls fell down. Whether they questioned it or they were laughing, who knows? It's like I said, it's a ridiculous way to conquer a fortified city. But they did it anyway. They did a ridiculous thing. Okay.
well,
That's to their credit. That's to their credit.
evidently they had enough trust
They
in Joshua.
Joshua.
did both. Yeah, they
That
trusted in
they
him.
said, okay, this doesn't really make any sense to me,
I know,
but
they did it anyway.
we're going to do it because we believe, we have faith that Joshua
He knows what he's talking about.
received some kind of communication
Right.
from God, and he's telling us the right thing to do. And
Right.
somehow it's going to work out, although they
It
were
did.
probably thinking, well, they probably didn't see how this was going to make any difference.
That's
But
the reason
They
why.
probably
followed
thought-
through.
And that's the reason why I was asking that question. If Patrick gets up right now and Patrick come to us and say that God said we should go around this building 7 times and blow trumpet, the building will come down.
Yeah.
Truly,
Well, see,
you will not believe it.
we could say that's plan A. If that doesn't work, we'll go to plan B. Well, then we'll start
Well,
plot
first
the
of all,
guns.
why would we want the building to fall down?
Well, we would.
I think we would say to, well, what are you trying to do, get a new
We don't want the
building
fall
built or
down, but
something?
just an
So, again, I think we would really, now in this case, they did have the motivation to want the walls of Jericho to fall down. I'm not sure that we would want to do something like that. We would think there was some kind of an ulterior motive in doing it, but anyway.
All right, but what we see also here is God uses the unusual, very unusual circumstances to accomplish the impossible. So that's a lesson right there for us.
Oh, yeah,
We've probably seen that in other areas of our life.
yeah.
Maybe we'll see it in our life at some point. But he doesn't always do the conventional thing, like using military strategy here. He doesn't. Totally different. It almost seems childish, really, right? Ridiculous. March around blowing a horn. I mean, that's what kindergartners do in a kindergarten or something, or maybe they do it at VBS, or something. But so it's just a lesson there for us. To be open to how God is maybe thinking out of the box, kind of, we say, thinking out of the box these years, all these years later, and he still operates that way today. Many examples we could see.
I think you can
Over the
also see this as God, I don't know, setting sort of a test to what lengths they were willing to go to
Well, there was a test.
how far they would go to obey him. I can see, all right, well, let's walk around a couple days, but you're
7,
getting to the 6th,
Must have been
7th
pretty
day,
old.
and you're thinking, we're doing this and it's not accomplishing anything.
I'm sure after the
But
3rd day, they were getting pretty tired of this.
God, God
It's a big city. It's a big
set
city.
that maybe as a test.
This
of
is not a
what they're
small
willing.
village. This is a big city. That's a lot of walking around. I'm telling you, there's probably several miles they're going around this city. I've seen a picture of it. All right, let's move on to chapter 7. I think we covered chapter 6 very well. I think that says all the important things you need to say about it right now. Chapter 7 is a totally different story, right? They got the ball rolling. They're really doing great, right? Man, all of a sudden the brakes get hit. And that chapter 7 is a totally different story. Let me tell you about it. We're not going to have time to read the whole thing. It's quite a lengthy thing, but this is their second conquest, all right? On the heels of their victory over Jericho, the Israelites send a few troops, talking 3,000 troops, which is not a lot, because they had 30,000 against Jericho. So this is just a small group, 30 to 10%. To Ai, okay? We have Ai intelligence today, right? This is Ai. This is a city of Ai. I want to get them mixed up. A little town, only 15 miles away up the hill from Jericho. It doesn't even have much of a wall around it. They could have walked right in. But Ai would become for them a place of humiliation, okay, and defeat, because they weren't willing, walking by faith. I'm sorry, they were not walking by faith, and we'll see in a minute why. God had told them not to keep any of the plunder from Jericho. What do you think they did?
Disobedience.
Some of them, one guy specifically, took some plunder.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, now they were unified. They were walking with God. Now they got a problem. Okay, that's the lesson for us. That's a lesson here. Achan is the villain. He's just an ordinary Israelite. They had thousands of them. He disobeyed God's command. He knew what God said. He said, "Don't take any plunder." That was common knowledge. Okay, we know that because he hid it. When he took the plunder, he hid it under his tent. He wouldn't have done that if he hadn't heard God say, "No, you don't take any plunder." So he was not innocent here. So there was the sin in the camp, it's called. Been many sermons over the years about sin in the camp. We could say it's sin in the church kind of thing. As a result, the people of Israel would learn two very important lessons. Number one, if there is sin in the camp, there will be defeat among God's people. That still has an application, I think, to the church today. That's why the leaders of the church, if somebody is known to have public sin going on, then the elders have the responsibility to confront that person. That has happened in this church over the years. People have been told or asked to leave because they were counseled and that person refused to change. It usually has to do with sexual immorality. That's been the biggest problem over the years. People get involved in outside their marriage or somebody else, something like that. Anyways, that principle still applies today. If there's sin in the camp in a public way, then it has to be dealt with. Okay, and that's what's going to happen here. And that's a lesson for us, a basic lesson for the church and all Christians. So, secondly, you can never presume the victory that God promises. You can't presume that God's going to give it to you. It requires obedience at every step along the way. So here they didn't have obedience before they did. Okay, so that's what's going to cause them to have a big defeat. The lesson here for us is that God takes sin seriously, and so should we. Period. I mean, we just have to. All right. After the humiliating defeat at Ai, and their troops are routed. They're just driven out. What does Joshua do? He gets on. You'll see it if you read this chapter. He gets out with some friends and prays. Has a prayer group, and he prays deeply, searching for answers. God gives him insight into the situation as he prays. Now Joshua understands why they suffered such a humiliating defeat. He had no idea why it happened at first, but God told him at Ai and what they must do to keep it from ever happening again. He says, you're going to have to get rid of the sin in the camp. And he does. Anyone see any lessons here on prayer for us today? If you read the passage, I know you didn't read it yet probably, but I think we can see that prayer gives us perception. That God gives perception to us, or a deeper understanding about things going on. Joshua certainly gets this perception and is able to carry on and correct the situation and be victorious. Prayer calms our spirits. It calms Joshua. He was very agitated that he lost. It calms them down and sensitizes our hearts to God's will. That's another advantage of prayer. I think we should all agree with that.
What do you think? This is something that, yeah, you know, you at some point in your life, you may have had an experience like this where you're part of a group. Say you're part of a classroom in school, or you're employees in a company or something, and something goes missing, or somebody vandalizes something in the company or in the classroom, and the teacher or the boss says, okay, you know, who did this? How did this happen? And you know, nobody says anything. And so the teacher says, well, okay, everybody is going to have to work an extra hour every day until someone comes forward and takes responsibility for this. Or in the classroom, everybody's gonna have to do an extra homework.
That's one way to deal with it.
But, well, so do you think that's fair to make everybody suffer
Doesn't seem fair.
because one person did something right? And that's what happens here. One person took the forbidden things, but everybody suffers. People
To
die.
some extent, 36
Because-
people died.
So I don't know. How do you feel about it?
It's more noticeable in the military. It's more noticeable in the military boot camp that, i.e., one person screws up in the platoon, okay, then everybody else suffers for it. Okay. You know, I can't think of a specific instance, but I do know for a fact that, you know, the drill instructors would say, well, so-and-so did this, you can thank so-and-so for this. And everybody, like, they get upset because, you know, you're the one who screwed up and brought this consequence upon, okay, the rest of the platoon.
Right. And
Well,
The issue is,
I don't think
all of
it
them were
doesn't seem
aware.
fair. Go ahead.
They were told not to touch the forbidden thing. But when Achan took the thing, nobody knows. That's the point.
right.
Nobody knows. What man was saying about a school issue like this, somebody will know that you are the one who did the thing, but no one wants to talk to bring you out, that you are the one who did it. Normally, school, we do behave that. So they know very well that I am the one who did the thing, but they will not tell the teacher. All of us will accept the punishment. Nobody, because they fear the one who did the thing. If I say he is the one who did it, they will come after me. So I have to be quiet. But this one it has become like a hidden sin among them. They don't know particular person who did it.
Right.
Otherwise, they will bring him up.
It's not totally hidden though. His family knew about it. Akin's family. And God knew about it.
God, also God knows.
God always.
Yeah, God is the one who ordered
It
them
is-
not to take it.
It's considered a secret sin. But,
Yes, so it has become a hidden sin among them.
yeah.
So
But
Joshua didn't know. Joshua didn't know.
Yeah.
And formerly, they were so confident that, oh, we were able to take Jericho, which is a big distance. Whatever AI, just a small city, we overcome them. So all of them get loose, including even Joshua. They were overconfident. They were no more praying to God anymore, like we should stand before God and pray that we are going for this. They are so overconfident for what they are going for. And God wants to show them again that I am the Lord. I can let the bigger fall, but the little one overrun you.
all right.
It's a lot for us to learn
Right.
about.
Well, the thing is, you ask if this action is fair. I say it doesn't seem fair, but something has to be done about it, right? Somebody damaged the room, somebody stole the goods, whatever. So that person needs to be brought forward,
Yeah.
so they can say, "I'm sorry, I'll pay for the damages, whatever." So I don't know. I think it's a good thing that the teacher or the person in authority takes some kind of action. In this case, God is going to take some action. He's going to tell Joshua, "You got to take some action," and he will. And he will find this person out, and he will be punished. He's going to be stoned to death. You read the chapter.
Yeah.
Going to be
Not
stoned to
just
death,
him.
and his family,
Yeah.
who knew about this terrible thing, because 36 people had been killed over it, and a lot of people had been injured, and the whole nation's reputation had been damaged. See, God's trying to establish himself with a good reputation, in this new land, and he just tarnished God's reputation. So that's why, and we have a holy God, right? And he wants us to live holy lives. This guy knew what he was doing. He rationalized stealing, taking these valuable pieces, and he had to be punished. So it doesn't seem fair to have to punish everybody, but something had to be done about it, in answer to your question. So I think, and that's what happened. That's how they dealt with it, and that's probably were maybe other ways they could have dealt with it. But that's what happened.
I'm not sure these things have been happening today in the churches, like the way you put it.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't do that
That's
today.
10
We're
years
not going to
ago,
stone
and
somebody.
we raised this, and we are saying that even among ourselves, our nuclear families, being your children will do something whom you know that what the child did is wrong. I need to bring him out for the church to, quarry him, to stop him so that he can change from that character. But as for the family, you say, no, I will not do that. I'll be ashamed, or it will disgrace my family, or it will go this way. So you keep it yourself. You keep it.
Yeah.
Those are things that if you are learning, if Jesus was telling us that if your left hand is bothering you, cut it off. It's better for you.
Seriousness of sin, right?
Exactly.
So,
So all is the secret sins.
Okay, so here we have a lesson again on the seriousness of sin. And there's also a lesson on prayer, because Joshua got it out on his hands and knees. He's on his face on the ground praying to God. It's a picture in the Bible. And things got resolved through the prayer. He got peace and comfort. He resolved the situation so they could go forward again in victory. If you read into the next chapter, which you might want to go into next week, they go back at it again with a new strategy, and they are victorious.
Yeah.
So eventually they will capture Ai and be victorious, because this sin in the camp problem was corrected. And we think that's very harsh for what they did. Today we wouldn't stone somebody, there are other ways to punish people and change things around. But it's a lesson in prayer, I'm just saying. So we get that lesson from this book, and we also see it's a lesson on Achan rationalizing stealing, taking this stuff. It's easy for us to rationalize things, and we shouldn't do it, period. And prayer is not an option. That's another lesson right here. We can say to ourselves, I'm too busy to pray. We got school, we got work, we got family, we got all kinds of stuff going on. The lesson in Joshua is we don't have that option. Prayer is not an option. It's something we have to do every day as a Christian. And Joshua is a man of prayer. He turned things around. So there's just some little lessons there for us on rationalization and prayer. And it had a sad ending, because again, they went back and destroyed this city totally. They killed the king. And then they move on to their next conquest in chapter 8. So I don't know if you want to start there next week, or you want to just do your own thing. It's up to you.
No, I don't want to touch it before you and
Alan, you want to do your own thing?
Yeah.
All right, Alan, then I'll tell Alan. He'll pick up in chapter 8.
I have a question.
All right, yeah.
You were saying that we should pray
Every day, yes.
every day.
Yeah, I
But
think we all agree with
the
that.
thing is, I don't think Christians really skip praying, because throughout the day, if you're acknowledging what God has done for you, and
Should be
you
every
give
day.
thanks, you pray over your food.
You should. There are Christians that don't though.
Thankful that you take a trip and you get back
Right.
safe.
That should be
Pray for your family.
part and parcel of
You
every
know,
day.
So all of that's prayer.
But
So
you know,
I think people do that.
most people do, but I'm sorry to say, I know some people in this church that don't have a prayer life. The only time they pray is when we come together on Sunday morning. Now that is a real shame. I don't even know how that person could even call themselves a Christian. But that goes on, believe me. I just talking from experience. I've been here since a little child, and I've got to know this church as well as anybody but Alan. He knows it better than I do, because he's here. He was born ahead of me, and he's right ahead of me. But we have people in this church that come here every Sunday and they'll pray, and that's the last time they'll pray till they get back here on Sunday. Now that shouldn't be. I don't think anybody else would do that. But there are people here like
I
that.
don't know how you
But I'm
don't
just-
know that.
Well, I know. Things that people have said. You just get to know things about people and things that they say, things that you see their habits and other things like that. But I'm sure most people here are into prayer and they're doing the right thing. So anyways,
As for the time
We're
is
out of
hard.
time here.
The time is hard, but Mom, what you said, what you just said about prayer. Sometimes we are overconfident of certain things if we are going for certain things, or we came from a certain place, while we know that where we came from. When you came, you say, oh God, I thank you for this. But for you to go to God sincerely and know that this is what I'm going to do, God, only you can assist me. Sometimes when you pass through that bridge, ask yourself, do you go back to God and give those kind of thanks? You ask yourself, do you do that?
I do that.
Sometimes you will be overconfident. After you succeed what you are looking for, you don't go to God back and say that, thanking you every day, thank you for what you have done for me or whatever. Sometimes you even forgot.
Well, I even reach out to him when I've misplaced something and can't find it. And a few minutes later, bang.
Got it back.
Yeah. And I asked him, Lord, where is it?
It's worse. You said, Holy Spirit,
you know?
remember me where I put this.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately you said that, you didn't know how you see that.
Yeah.
You remember why exactly you put that there and you found it.
Yeah.
Keep it up. Thank you.
Okay.
all right, thanks for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck with your studies. Hope to see you every Sunday. Be able to make it back. We also have a Wednesday night Bible school if you have time. And we're right here studying with our minister.
Okay.